on this computer. And we are recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Swords of the Serpentine, a sword and sorcery gumshoe game. My name is Mike Ferdinando. I will be your GM tonight. I've been gaming for quite a while. I've been a member of Gauntlet online game community for about 2 years at this point, but this is the first time I have GM'd a game here, and I'm really excited to run this game. Swords of the Serpentine is a gumshoe sword and sorcery game. It's written by Kevin Culp and Emily Dresner. I was one of, my group was one of the my home group was one of the playtesters when it first became, when Pelgrane Press first made it available to playtest. The GM of my home group was a personal friend of Kevin Culp, so we thought, okay, sure, we'll do this one-shot introductory adventure and then get back to our regular game. Well, we ended up playing Swords of the Serpentine as our only game for the next 9 months. This game is just that good. Anyway, enough about me. Why don't we do some quick introductions? We'll go left to right on how I see you on my screen. So CL, why don't you take it?
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm a member of the Gauntlet, been on the Gauntlet for a couple of years now, and I've GM'd a few and played a lot, and it's always fun.
Awesome. Jason?
I'm Jason. I use he, him pronouns. I love sword and sorcery games. I was pretty deep on the wait list. I'm surprised I got into it, but I'm happy to see how this game plays. Ready to roll.
Cool, thank you. Joe?
I'm Joe, they, them, she, her. Been with the Gauntlet for a while. Played with 3 of the 6 people here. Well, 3 of the 5 other people here. Also love sword and sorcery, so I'm excited to get the playing around in that setting. So.
Fantastic, thank you. And yes, apologies for not giving my pronouns. My pronouns are he, him. Lowell, if you would take it.
Sure, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and I'm a Gauntlet community manager.
Thanks, and Dan?
Hey, I'm Dan. He, him pronouns, based in the Washington, D.C. area, Gauntlet member for about a year, and super excited to try this out. Also like sword and sorcery, getting more and more into city fantasy games, and also I've always wanted to try gumshoe, so it's sort of hitting a lot of notes for me. So that's me.
Awesome, fantastic. Show of hands or hitting the thumbs up signal. Has anyone here played a gumshoe game before? A kind of from Joe, a yes, a kind of for Joe, a yes from Lowell. You think?
I think if so, it's been a long time, but I'm not sure, totally sure. There's boxes that you'd mark off or something.
Yeah, something like that. We'll do a bit of a rules overview here. So Swords of the Serpentine is it's a sword and sorcery game, and I just really love this game. I've never played a game that really felt sword and sorcery as much as this one, with the possible exception of Swords Without Master. This game really makes me. This game I think really recreates like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, or if you read the old Thieves World series, the Thieves World shared anthology from the 70s. So in Swords of the Serpentine, we are going to create a bunch of kind of larger than life characters that are not necessarily heroes, although you certainly can be. And the game is very much tied to its location, which is the city, the great city of Eversink. We'll get into a little bit more about what makes Eversink tick as time goes on. So unlike a lot of RPGs, Gumshoe does not have stats. So you don't have a strength, you don't have a, you don't have a dexterity, you don't have a weird. This is an entirely a skill-based game. Characters have, and the reason Gumshoe is around, Gumshoe was originally invented sort of as a way to do investigative-based games. If folks have like played Call of Cthulhu or other investigative games in the past, there's one issue with those kind of games where, if you blow your roll or if you don't find yourself in the right situation for the scenario, the scenario just comes screeching to a halt, to the point where the GM either has to say, okay, well, oh, you missed that. Yeah, roll perception again. Oh, you missed that. Okay, well, why don't you roll investigate again? Oh, you missed that. Well, why don't you roll investigate? The Gumshoe system kind of like takes that all out, and that is, if you have the skill, you find the relevant. If you have the relevant skill, you find the clue. Question in chat, Trail of Cthulhu. Yes, Trail of Cthulhu is a Gumshoe game. I believe that was one of the first Gumshoe games. I haven't played a ton of Trail of Cthulhu, but yeah, that's also a pretty cool game. So for example, if you have if you need to find, if you have the skill, you find the clue. That's when you're doing investigations. So why Gumshoe for sword and sorcery? At first that doesn't seem like a great fit, but when you go back and read a lot of the original, stories from like the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s, the heroes do a lot of investigation. They're trying to figure out what are the machinations of this mad wizard, or bodies are turning up and they've got this like weird, and all of these bodies have a weird tattoo. I wonder what that's up, or I wonder what's up with that. So when you look at it that way, a lot of the stories really do have a certain level of investigation involved. So Gumshoe kind of fits there. In a lot of Gumshoe games, if you get into combat, you've probably done something wrong. So the designers of this game have done some very innovative design within the Gumshoe space, and I find combat is very, it's a sword and sorcery game, so you're going to get into fights. And the system does a really good job of handling combat. So, skills. Your characters have skills. You have a rank in a skill. Your rank also gives you a number of pool points that you can spend. So for example, if you have the, if you have the intimidation skill, if you're trying to find clues, just the fact that if you say that, well, I'm going to try to be menacing to try to get information out of this guy. If you have the intimidation skill and you're interrogating someone who has a clue, he's going to tell you something. He's going to give you the clue. You can spend points. You can spend a point of intimidation. And again, you'd need to describe how that works or exactly what you're doing. But if you spend a point, you're going to get more information. So he'll spill, he won't give the bear. So if you're intimidating someone and you spend a point of intimidation, the guy you're questioning is probably going to spill his guts. He's going to tell you a whole lot of stuff. He may be so scared he may conceivably, work for you as an ally for a little while longer. Investigative abilities are very powerful. Oh, and when you spend your points, you still have the ranks. So investigative skills are, or investigative abilities, they're very important. That's kind of what makes the game tick. Another thing that investigative skills you can use for in Swords of the Serpentine, and that is in combat, if you hit an enemy in combat and you can give us a good reason why this skill is relevant. You can spend an appropriate investigative skill point to get an extra die of damage in combat. And as long as you make a good argument, that'll work. In addition to investigative skills, there are also general abilities. General abilities are the ones where you use more frequently, and they refresh on a more they refresh more frequently. So general ability. So in Swords of the Serpentine, there are 8 general abilities. 3 are combat, and 5 are standard. So these are things like so general abilities come into play when chance is a factor. Like for example, the athletics is a general ability. So if you need to, try to if you're trying to muscle your way through a crowd to chase someone, I'd probably call for an athletics check, or I'm sorry, an athletics test. And the abilities are mostly self-explanatory, and combat works this way as well. One difference between general abilities and investigative abilities is general abilities refresh at the end of the scene, whereas investigative abilities only refresh at the end of the adventure. So you've got to be a little more. So you can spend your general skill. You can spend your general ability points much more freely, but they're not quite as powerful. But still, the way general abilities work is there's generally when chance is a factor, you need to pass a test. This game only uses a d6. And when you're making tests, you're only rolling 1d6. The target is going to usually be 3 or 4, and I'll usually tell you, the GM will usually tell you what the target number it is. You can spend points in the relevant general ability for a +1 to the die roll. So if you want to spend, say, so if you're trying to muscle your way through that crowd, and I tell you that the difficulty is going to be 4, you can spend you can spend 3 points of athletics. You then roll the die and add 3. And if you beat and so you can sometimes figure out like how many you need to succeed. And generally, if you beat the target for every 3 points you beat the target, you generally get some kind of extra effect. And combat works mostly the same way. Your target is going to have what's called a threshold. And you need to meet or beat that threshold. I'm sorry, it's not beat by 3, it's beat by 5 points. For every 5 points you beat the threshold, you get a critical success. Combat abilities. There are 3 combat abilities. Warfare attacks your opponent's health. Sway attacks your opponent's morale. And sorcery can attack one or the other. That's defined when you define how you're casting sorcery. Let's see. Let me go back to my notes here. And please, anyone interrupt me if you've got a question. So in combat in this game, you can choose to attack someone physically, or you can attack their morale. And if their morale drops, if their morale drops sufficiently low, they'll surrender. Like in the game, in the Swords of the Serpentine game that we played for a while, one of the characters was renowned as one of the greatest swordsmen. He did not have a particularly high warfare skill. He had a really high sway skill, and he leveraged the fact that he was this legendary swordsman to convince his enemies to surrender to him. So you can win a fight in this game without drawing a drop of blood, which I think is kind of cool. Okay, 5 players. I need to look up something in the rule book. Give me just a moment. apologize. I meant to look this up before we started, and I forgot. So in character creation, everyone's going to have a number of investigative points that they can spend in their investigative skills, and a number of general points that they can spend in their general skills. And there's the table. Okay, so we've got 5 players. Everyone has 10 points that they can spend for investigative abilities. Generally, the way I recommend this is think of a character concept that you are interested in playing that's appropriate to a sword and sorcery, kind of. So Eversink is a metropolis. It's a city of like more than 100,000 people. It's pretty cosmopolitan. There are people from all over the world congregate here, so you can really play any conceivable character that you would want to play. Technology level, I'd probably say it's probably like early Renaissance. There aren't firearms, but there seems to be like reading it. There's like an advanced, there's like an advanced economic system. There are banks. There's advanced sailing ships. There are no firearms, so there's no gunpowder. There's no guns. If you're thinking about about being a spellcaster, one thing to keep in mind about magic in Swords of the Serpentine is that magic is bad. I'm not telling you this not to play, because sorcery is really, really fun. But the way, again, focusing in on the history of sword and sorcery games, magic is bad. Magic is you're bringing in energies from beyond into this world to like change the laws of nature. And when you do that, you are corrupting the world, bringing these strange and powerful energies in. In order to be a spellcaster, you must have ranks in the skill corruption. For every point of corruption you have, you can choose a different sphere of magic, and those are very loosely defined.
Mike, can I ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely.
See if I'm catching on.
Absolutely.
So these investigative skills, we can only use it once for the whole adventure. Is that or the points in it we can only use once? Like we use up our skill levels?
Yeah. So like say you've got if you've got like 2 ranks in a given skill, you always have 2 ranks. That means that you can find clues as if you had 2 ranks at all times. That also means you have 2 points that you can spend at points in the game that you deem are have sufficient dramatic weight. When you spend a point, you're going to either get extra information if you're investigating. You can also use them in combat to do extra damage.
Okay. So let's say I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Go on.
Let's say I had 2 points in charm. So during our game, whenever I'm trying to charm someone, I would add 2 to my dice roll, and also I could do 2 tremendous things at some point.
You don't normally spend investigative points on your dice roll.
Okay.
It's the general abilities that you use to adjust your dice.
Okay.
So if you have 2 points of charm, that means you are just generally charming, and that people are going to like you.
Okay.
And that people are generally going to go along with what you say. They're generally going to, you're just generally charming. If there's a situation where, in order to get information, you want to charm it out of them, you'll automatically charm them out of them if that's what you say you're doing. There's no roll required to get that information.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go on.
If I want, but the advantage of having multiple ranks in an investigative skill is that twice during our adventure, I can do something especially, well in charming people, and I could burn those points during the course of our adventure. Okay.
Correct. And the other thing is, when you're burning investigative points, you can actually burn more than one. They just only have to come from the same. You can only burn points from one skill. So if you have like 3 ranks so if you're a rogue and you have like 3 ranks in skullduggery, and you're in combat and you want to and you want to say that, okay, yeah, I am back. I'm causing a distraction and I'm backstabbing this guy. You could conceivably blow all 3 of your ranks of skullduggery on that one time for 3 extra dice of damage.
Okay. But non-combat things, you wouldn't really ever roll dice for that. You would just say, I really need to charm this guard to get out of this cell. I'm going to burn a point of charm, and it would just happen.
Pretty much.
Okay. But for combat, it has different.
Combat has other things.
Okay.
Yeah, combat has some different mechanics. You can burn an investigative point on to affect a general skill. Generally, when you burn a point if you burn an investigative point, it's going to give you a +3 bonus instead of a +1 bonus.
Okay.
That's usually not considered a great use of investigative skills, but you can do it in a pinch if you need to.
So I could be like, I'm going to burn a point of charm in combat and get, flutter my eyes and get this guy to let down his guard, and then I'm going to stab him in the gut with a sword and get 3 extra dice of damage by burning that point of charm.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You get
or
one.
A +3.
You get one. You get a plus. You can either use that as burning an investigative point. You can choose it to get a +3 on your die roll, or you can get an extra die of damage. Or there's some skills that they do have. There's a few skills that if you burn a point, you get extra. You get a certain level of extra narrative control over the game. I'm generally pretty loose with those, but the ones which come up are, like, for example, the laws and traditions skill. If you burn a point of laws and traditions, you can establish a new law or tradition of Eversyn, and you can just state it, and that's the way it always has been, and that's the way it will be for the rest of the game. So that allows you to, and of course, if you're spending that, you're probably doing it to give yourselves a good amount of fictional advantage in the situation. So laws and traditions could, so if you want to spend a point of laws and traditions to say, well, in section 4, in section 17, subsection 5, paragraph V of the Eversyn City Code, those people who are wearing red on Thursdays don't have to pay the excise tax. And and now you don't have to pay the excise tax. Likewise, you can burn a point of city secrets to do things like establish that, oh yeah, this bar we're in, yeah, they're a front for the Thieves Guild, and so they're a way to or alternately, you could spend a point of city secrets to, if you're being chased by the guards. Yeah, I'm going to spend a city secrets to say that, I know that there's a concealed door here that we can just like duck into, and the guards aren't going to be able to follow us through. Or another one is forgotten lore. That's the one where you basically can say that. I think the example that Kevin Culp, the designer, has said that, yes, you can spend a point of forgotten lore to declare that, well, everyone knows that in the dock ward at midnight on a full moon, horses can talk. So therefore, I'm going to ask this horse, where did the guy that we're chasing go?
Should we go ahead and start assigning those now?
I was going to say, yeah. So you've got 11 points. I'm sorry, did I say 11 or did I say 10?
I think you said 10.
Yeah, 10. Yeah. So with 5 players, you've got 10 points.
Should we talk about what we were like conceptually thinking about, so we don't?
I was just going to make that very suggestion. If people want to talk about like what character concepts they have, One nice thing that I like about the using a character keeper is that everybody can see everyone else's character sheet. So this is an opportunity to try to like spread the skills around, so you don't necessarily do a whole lot of overlap.
All taking skills in social, but we have to pick one of the classes in the investigative abilities and only put skills in ranks in those skills for that class. Is that fair to say?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. So there are not actual character classes per se in this game. However, they're not really, but they kind of are. Those are so social are skills that everybody has. Sentinel skills are the Sentinel. They're sort of like the Sentinels of Eversync. They generally are members of the Church of Denari. The Church of Denari is the official religion of Eversync. She is the god of commerce. She is the goddess of commerce. According to legend, she is the goddess of Eversync. She is the goddess of Eversync's commerce, and she is Eversync. So whatever happens to the goddess happens to Eversync, happens to the city. Whatever happens to the city happens to the goddess. And allegedly, she physically lives on an island, on one of the many islands of Eversync, but it's forbidden because anyone who goes to the island never comes back. Sentinels are members of the church. They are lawbringers, lawgivers. Sorcerers are like spellcasters. It is not illegal to cast spells in Eversync. However, it is illegal to cause corruption in Eversync. So for sorcerers, my rule of thumb for when a sorcerer wants to cast magic, you can base it. The magic is very, very deliberately loosely defined. For every point of corruption, you have a sphere of magic that you can have, and those can include things like plants or earth or memory, or there's a list from the book. So if someone wants to play a sorcerer, I'll pull that up and we can go over some of that. My rule of thumb with when you're casting a spell is if the effect that you want to make is something that can be done through mundane means, you generally don't have to spend a point of corruption in order to make it have effect. So for example, if you were using sorcery to like change the color of something, well, you could conceivably do that by painting it. And in this case, it would have the effect of, basically has a coat of paint. If you wanted to like slowly, if you had an appropriate sphere and you wanted to use sorcery to like pull a small object that's small enough for you physically to pick up and cause it to float across the room to your hand, you don't necessarily have to blow a point of corruption because you could get up and walk across the room and pick up that book. If you wanted to, turn the person that you're fighting into a frog, that's something that cannot be done by normal means, and you would need to burn a point of corruption in order to make that magical effect happen. When you burn a point of corruption, you can choose to burn that. You can choose to corrupt one of two ways. You can internalize the corruption, in which case the source of that magic is corrupting your physical body. So, for example, like in the Thaford and the Grey Mouser stories, blanking on his name, the seven-eyed wizard. Well, he probably started out as human, but he's cast so many spells that he's corrupted his body, and so that's why you never see his face, and he's got like the seven eyes floating in there. And alternatively, you can externalize the corruption, in which case, whatever you cast it on, or alternatively, where you are standing, the corruption suffuses the area that you're in. One point of corruption, and again, the more points of corruption that you spend when you cast a spell, the bigger the spell effect. So generally, you can't have generally the maximum number of points you can have in any skill is 5, which means you're probably the best in the world. So if you spend like 1 point of corruption, you could conceivably, turn an enemy into a frog, at least for a short period of time. If you have 5 points of corruption, you could conceivably, like turn a castle into a pile of sand.
Mike, can we put points in different, like could I put points in sorcerer and in warrior?
Right. I was going to answer that question and I distracted myself. Thank you for bringing me back. The answer is yes. You don't need to stay in any one character class. You can mix and match as much as you want. However, if you only spend your investigative points in one of the character classes plus social, you get an extra rank. So you get a little bonus for you get a little bit of a bonus for specializing. So if say you wanted to be in so say if you wanted to just be a sorcerer and put all your points in sorcerer skills and social skills, you get an extra rank that you can plug in.
Okay.
And the question is, which do you want to do? Do you want to specialize and have and be really, really good at something, or do you want to generalize and and have skills in a lot of stuff, but not be particularly not being particularly invested in any one? And that's really up for you to decide.
So my concept, for the other guys, we can bounce it around, but I was thinking of playing like a hulking warrior that also is corrupted by like ice magic or demon ice magic, something like that. So
Cool.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the sample characters is mostly a rogue, but he's got one rank in corruption, and his his spear is memory, so he can make people forget he was ever there.
And it sounds like Lowell from the chat's looking at a sorcerer, like a classic,
Awesome.
like squishy kind of sorcerer. Okay.
Awesome.
What do you other guys have any ideas?
Not really. Good at fighting, because it's sword and sorcery. I want to be good at it. Probably like fighty, roguey. I don't know. Not sorcery, because we got that covered. I'm like, that's work. That sounds like work. I don't have the book.
Hey,
if it was
folks,
a different system, no problem.
Got it. Hey, you know what, folks? I just I'm looking at the tabs here, and I just realized I totally forgot to go over safety tools. The first safety tool I'm actually going to invoke, which is called excuse me, which is called Open Door, and that is I'm going to call a 2-minute break. We're going to come back. We're going to go over to safety tools. Totally my bad. I meant to do that at the start, and I totally forgot. So I'm going to call a 2-minute break. I've got 8:38. I'll be back at 8:40 Eastern Time. I'll be right back. Okay, is everyone back, or looks like not everyone yet? Okay, we're back. Thank you. So apologies for not doing this at the start. Just my enthusiasm for this game got ahead of me. Need to talk a little bit about safety tools. So we're a bunch of strangers or near strangers that are getting together over the internet to play a game, and the point of this is to have fun. But in the course of role-playing games, sometimes it's in the course of when one was playing role-playing games, sometimes it's easy to get ahead of yourself, to trip up. The point is that each of us individually is more important than this game. And safety tools are a way that we can make sure that we keep the game fun and that we don't cause unnecessary emotional harm to each other. I like to play with 3 safety tools. The first one is called the X card. With the X card, so the X card is a tool that used to, if we're going somewhere that you are not comfortable with, you don't want us to go there. Could be something serious. It could be something as easy as, oh, I don't like the name of that NPC because there's a person of that name that I find very problematic. Can we change the name of the NPC? Anything that happens in the game that is starting to go in a direction you don't like, you can say the phrase X card. We're all on video. You can make an X gesture. We have a shared dice roller, and there is an X card function there. You can click that, which is going to show up on everyone. When someone invokes the X card, we are going to pause the game. I'll ask what the thing that we need to remove from the game is. We don't need to tell us why. We'll remove that element from the game, rewind, and we'll replay the scene without that element. That's the X card in a nutshell. It's a way that if you realize that we're about to step on a landmine, you can invoke the X card, and we'll make sure it is not there. Another tool that we're going to use is called lines and veils. And this is a way to set aside things that we decide ahead of time that we just don't want to appear in the game. So a line is an element that will not appear in the game at all. We won't mention it. It won't happen. None of us will mention it. It's just not there. A veil is something that we can acknowledge exists in the game, but it's not going to be on camera. It's not going to happen to any of the player characters. It's not going to happen in our presence. We may acknowledge that it exists. So if you head over to the Safety and Resources tab on the Character Keeper, I've got a list of fairly common things that people often wish to line or veil. I've put a few checkboxes in there under lines and veils. If folks want to take a moment to go over the list or add anything that they want to this list, we'll take a few moments. I see that some people already have, which is cool. When you're ready to go on, you can either give me a thumbs up or either give me a thumbs up with the or signal otherwise, or make a mention in the chat that you're set to go. Cool. And so the lines and veils is a living document. If anything happens, if people come up with one later or hadn't thought of one and it comes up in the game, X card it and we'll add it to the lines and veils. The third safety tool I just want to mention, I've already invoked, and that is called Open Door. Anyone can call a break at any time for any reason. If anyone wants to step away from the game, needs to take a breather, something else happens, needs to take your dog out, whatever, yeah, just say, hey, I'm stepping out. if you find that this game is not your cup of tea and you don't really want to keep playing, that's absolutely fine. If you're going to step away from the game and not come back, we'd appreciate the courtesy of saying that you're not coming back, although that's not strictly necessary. And that's pretty much open door. Anyone can step in and out at any time. This isn't per se a safety tool, but it's something I do want to mention. If for some reason I step away from my screen without warning and don't come back, or if my image suddenly freezes and I stop responding to you, either something came up in my house or I lost internet connection. If I'm gone for 10 minutes and I don't come back, I think it's safe, and I don't message you otherwise, it's going to be safe to say that for whatever reason, the game is over, and don't wait for me for more than 10 minutes unless I tell you otherwise. I do have everyone's email, so if for whatever reason I lost power, but I still have my phone, I might, I'll do my best to let you know what's going on, but if I disappear and I'm gone for 10 minutes, assume the game is over, and don't wait longer. Don't wait for me longer than that. I do regret to say that I had to invoke that once when I was running a game at PaizoCon earlier this year. I lost internet connectivity like 10 minutes before we were about to conclude the adventure, and we weren't able to do the finale. I think that concludes safety tools. And there's I've got some links to other resources on that page if anyone wants to follow them. Does anyone have any questions on safety tools? Awesome. So going back to abilities. So everyone has a total of 10 points to spend on investigative abilities. In addition, general abilities. Before I leave investigative abilities, there is another group of abilities that are called allegiances. These work more or less like investigative abilities. Allegiances are they're organizations or groups or whatnot that are in the city that you may have an affinity or an allegiance to. We'll go back and fill those in a little bit. I'll present what some of the big ones are, but some of the allegiances could be the Church of Denari, or Thieves Guilds, or Sorceress Cabal, or the noble families of Eversink. They work more or less like an investigative ability, where if you have an allegiance, that means you know about the organization, and you'll know about the investigation. You'll know who's there. You may know where their where their clubhouse is, or their safe houses are. It also gives you likewise a pool of points you can spend to call in favors. So if you've got allegiances with an allegiance with the Thieves Guild, you could conceivably spend a point to request that a couple journeyman members of Thieves Guild join you to back you up. Or you might go to the Thieves Guild to ask for more information about something. So everyone can choose two groups to have an allegiance to, or you can have one group that you have two ranks of an allegiance to. Additionally, everyone also needs to pick an organization that they are an enemy of. The way I've rigged this on the character keeper is you can put a negative rank with an organization. It'll flag as red to mean that this is an enemy organization. You still have the investigative ability with an enemy organization, in that you know who they are, you know who their leaders are, you know where they tend to hang out, you know what makes them tick. Yes, there's a point there with an enemy, but the point isn't for you to spend. The point is for the GM to spend to make your life more complicated. So that's just one thing I did want to mention allegiances before we went on to general abilities. And I'm looking up, I honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head how many points you get for general abilities.
30.
Thank you. Yeah, there it is, right here on page 55. You have 30 points to spend on general abilities. The way it works is I would recommend that you, even if you're a source, one thing, Lowell, I would recommend, if you don't have, or if you have no ranks, you basically can't use that, you can't use that general ability. I would recommend, even if you're a sorcerer, you might want to put 1 point in warfare in case you get cornered and you need to pull a dagger. With general abilities, again, you've got 30 points to spend. Oh, in addition, everyone also has 18 points you can spend between health and morale. You need at least 3 points in either health or morale. So, so when you use warfare, you are attacking. Warfare is the skill you use to attack someone physically. Sway is the ability that you use to attack someone's morale. Sorcery is the ability that you use to attack with magic. And when you attack with magic, you define at the top when you define your sorcerer's sphere, whether that sphere affects health or morale when you're using it to attack. One other thing, if you do have points in sorcery, now that generally means you must have at least 1 point in corruption in order to take points in sorcery. One little thing about general abilities: if you have 8 ranks in a particular ability, you get an extra ability, which I believe in gumshoe parlance is sometimes called a cherry, which is an extra ability that you gain that you can do if you've got 8 ranks. In combat, if you have 8 or more ranks in a given combat ability, that means you can affect more than one opponent at a time. So if you have 8 ranks in warfare, you gain the ability cleave, which means you have the possibility to affect multiple opponents at once. This is very useful when you're fighting mooks.
So I took 3 points in corruption, so I get 3 spheres.
Correct.
Can you tell me what those are, or what?
Okay.
How to shoot?
So yeah, let me head over to.
Do you just put ranks in health and morale?
Yeah,
Okay.
health and morale. You have a total of 18 points to spend in both. You have to have at least 3 ranks in. You have to have at least 3 ranks in each.
Okay. And that they're separate from general.
Yeah, they're separate from general.
Okay.
Health and morale, they're more or less your hit points.
Yeah, I figured. It was 18. No
Yep,
problem.
18 total between the two. Let's see. Let me go to the index of the book. Abilities, sorcery and corruption, page 132. There's a sorcery quick reference page. I need to put that somewhere. One other thing about sorcery, if you're going to be a sorcerer, you need to define whether you need to define how you learned magic. You've got 2 choices. One choice is a supernatural entity, a small god, a demon, a ghost, a spirit, some kind of supernatural creature has given you this power. how you want to define that is, I mean, it's pretty loose. How you want to define that is up to you. But generally, supernatural creatures are not particularly they're not benevolent. They generally will want something from you. They generally have an agenda. The other way that you could have learned sorcery is through the ancient writings of the serpent people. Because hey, it's a sword and sorcery game. Of course, there are serpent people. And everyone knows that they are all long gone, long gone. There are absolutely no serpent people left at all. Right, absolutely. And that's what people keep telling themselves. The description in the book is if you want to choose that you got your power from the ancient Serpentine, you were studying an ancient writing, and a piece of the Serpentine's writing crawled off the page and into your brain. Your source of power kind of defines like what your corruption is going to be like. And again, that's more fictional positioning than anything else. But if your source was the Serpentine, if you're internalizing corruption, that probably means that you are slowly turning yourself into a serpent person. If you chose like a demon, or if you chose a demon or a fairy spirit or something like that, as you corrupt yourself, as you internalize corruption as time goes on, you'll probably take a form that matches that of the source of your power. Let's see. I know I tried my best to throw brief descriptors of what the various abilities do. If you hover over one. Let's trying to think if I have anything else. Oh right, I was looking up. There was a question on the spheres. Yeah, there's a whole lot of different spheres. And it's basically, and you don't necessarily have to pick one that's off of the list. Yeah, so.
Can I just say like ice, wind, I don't know, what would be something else like something like that? Is that kind of what we're talking about? That kind of thing?
That's exactly, yeah. Some of the examples from the page are air, animal, which is pick a specific animal, blood, curses, entropy, demons, serpent, necromancy, music, illusion, transformation, dimensions. Basically, it's like a broad concept, and when you're using that sphere, your magic is more, the special effect of your magic is more or less limited to something that you could conceivably put under that sphere. Like, so when I played Swords of the Serpentine in my home group, I played a sorcerer, and I chose one of the spheres was dimensions. And the way I dealt with that was I said that would affect the when used an attack. I said that would affect the opponent's body, so that would affect health. And so so when I used dimensional magic, it would be like I'm making the distance that they have to travel between them and me really, really, really long. So it's going to take them a long time, which means so the bad guys can't approach me. Or I'm going to make their arms unnaturally short, so they can't use their sword.
And are the check marks next to that, is that for like what it attacks?
Correct.
Health and morale? Okay.
Yep.
So I got cold, wind, and terror. Does that sound in the ballpark of the kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Wind and terror aren't on the list, but we can make that up as we go along.
Okay.
That is awesome. So a few things about general abilities. Again, these are these are things that will affect your dice rolls. So general abilities come into play when chance is a factor. Athletics is pretty self-explanatory. That's, you know, running, jumping, swimming, climbing. Bind wounds is how you heal. There is not really magical healing in this game. So with bind wounds, you basically spend points of you spend points of your bind wounds ability to repair health. And it's the spend is for every point you spend of bind wounds, you can heal 2 points of health. Burglary is stealing stuff. I'm skipping preparedness because that's a little more complex. And stealth is pretty self-explanatory. That's like moving around unseen. Preparedness is, I guess I need to talk a little bit about wealth and equipment in Swords of the Serpentine, and both are heavily abstracted. Your preparedness skill is how well. I'm trying to think how to explain this. To a certain extent, that's like adventuring gear in Dungeon World. It's just a general. If you want to have something that you hadn't previously defined for your character, you can make a preparedness check. And if you make the check, you've got it. If you have 8 ranks in preparedness, you can do what's called a flashback, and that is you can state that you have previously set something up that's coming into effect now. So you could conceivably, if you want to use, so you can basically narrate a flashback scene on how you, I don't know, like, oh well, I knew the guards were going to chase me, so that's why I cut the straps of their riding saddles. So as they hop on their horses and try to chase me, they all fall off.
The spot at the top where it says adjectives, is that from a list, or we just put in things that capture what our character's about, or?
Ah, yes. Yeah, let's go back up there. So your profession, yeah, these are all kind of loosely defined, and these are there to help you as a role playing aid, and also to help the other players and the GM like know how to relate to you. So yeah, those don't necessarily have mechanical benefits. They're just descriptors to help you play your character. So you know, adjectives. Yeah, they usually recommend pick between 4 and 7 adjectives that describe your character. It's sometimes helpful to throw a couple in that don't seem really obvious. To kind of like help get you help get at the inner life. For example, one of the sample characters from the one of the pre-gen characters was a sentinel, and one of that character's adjectives was rebellious. Like the character was loyal and dedicated and steadfast, but was also rebellious because a little bit of a streak in there. And profession is, kind of like what you call yourself. Another thing everyone will need to come up to are 3 drives. That's sometimes called what is the best in life. And drives are your character's motivation. What does this character want? What does this character like? Why is this character doing what they're doing? Drives have a mechanical benefit. Once per scene, if you can make a reasonable argument that you are pursuing one of your drives in a scene, you get a free +1 on a roll. And the check mark is there to indicate that you have already used it in the scene. So,
Can you-
so let me pull up some of the sample characters just to give you some. And I didn't link to it. Bummer. So, an example for Callista Longscream, who is listed as a tracker mercenary and barbarian. Her best in lives were casting off civilization, drowning enemies in blood, reaping the spoils of war. Whereas Lucrezia, Vigilant of Denari, the Sentinel, her best in life were the love and duty of the goddess, arresting a miscreant, and secretly breaking rules. So those are, so those are kind of the, Lorenzo Guild servant, keeping my charge safe, not being discovered, getting payback.
Jason, did we play before?
Yeah.
Okay, the White Ruin. I was like, wait a second, that's familiar.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah, we played SCUP about a year ago.
yeah, also Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
yeah,
like that
yeah.
name's familiar. And then the description. All right, cool.
I had a sweet picture when we played that, but I can't find it on the internet anymore. But I don't mind the one I have at the. I put it. By the way, Mike, we got a bunch of us putting pictures down at the bottom.
Oh, that's awesome! I love it.
I was like, wait a second.
So one other thing about Eversync that I guess needs to be said regarding like your character concepts. There aren't really. This is sword and sorcery. It's not high fantasy. There really aren't different there aren't different ancestries. So there's no orcs. There are no dwarves. There's no elves. Pretty much everyone's human. There may be monstrosities that live around. I mean, there may be were-rats. There may be Serpentine, but for the most part, everyone's human.
Looks like Dan's gonna have to change his character then.
Uh-oh.
Doesn't look very human.
Uh-oh. Oh yeah, that's kind of a null. Yeah, there really aren't demi-humans. There really aren't monstrous humans. Well, I mean, there are monstrosities, but they don't. There's like no monstrous humanoid civilization. Pretty much everyone's human. But it's a very cosmopolitan place, and there's people from all over the world, and people look all kinds of different ways. Everything is very cosmopolitan place, and if your skin color's different, oh, you must be an outlander.
Other than allegiances, gear, I think I'm ready.
Cool. Yeah. So here's how gear works. Again, this is a game that doesn't really. I'm not going to tell you how many gold pieces you find. I'm not going. I'm not going to say, oh no, you'd better scratch off a pint of oil. Gear. Gear is your iconic gear. So imagine the stuff that the painting of your character on the cover of the novel, like that's the stuff that gear is. It's the stuff that's shown. It's the stuff that's iconic. Basically, you're generally always assumed to have your iconic gear unless it is fictionally appropriate for you not to have it. When you have your iconic gear with you, you gain a point of grit. We'll get to grit and armor in a moment. And again, this is kind of it's kind of up to you. There's no real rhyme or reason. You can like describe your character's look. The other thing about gear is it doesn't actually have to be physical gear. On the sample character sheets, they have things like like perpetual haughty attitude, or one person has A jug of good wine, now empty, curse the gods. So this is a chance to like really make your, kind of like make your character's personality shine. If you'd like, I can rattle off some of the gear from some of the sample characters, or I think I sent them to you, but yeah, it's like for example, in the sample character Lord Callio, who was the kind of foolish fop. His gear included the finest clothing, ... about 110 years out of style. Armor used by your great-grandparent in the Battle of Enfield. Your mother's heavy, well-balanced war axe. An elderly servant whose name you can never quite remember. So weapons will usually have a damage modifier. Generally, the bigger the weapon, the bigger the modifier. It's never more than +2. So if you want to say that you've got the, so if you want to say that you're carrying around a claymore, we can just say that as a damage +2 weapon. If it's more or less a one-handed weapon, you can generally say it does a +1 damage, or if it's a small weapon like a dagger, that's probably going to have like a +0 damage. Excuse me. And armor, the way armor works, armor subtracts damage. So if you've got armor, if you define that you say that you have armor 2, every time you take a hit, the armor is going to absorb 2 points of damage. Sometimes a special effect may bypass armor.
Is there any reason not to just say I have, 20 points of armor or something? Like to
generally
play the system.
Yeah. So generally armor is going to be either +1 or +2. If it's +2, that usually means it's heavy.
So it'll be there'll be a disadvantage.
Yeah, if you if you get knocked off a boat into the water and you're wearing heavy armor, that's probably going to affect your swimming ability.
Is there armor to your morale also?
Armor to morale is called grit. Generally, if you've got your gear with you, you've got 1 grit. That gives you a little bonus. Then if you got your stuff with you, that just makes you feel more comfortable. There's ways to improve grit through advancement, but generally most characters are going to start with 1 grit because you've got your gear. If you're stripped of your gear, you're generally going to lose. You're going to lose that point of grit. But that's only going to happen if it's fictionally appropriate. Like if you've been captured and thrown in the dungeon, you're probably not going to have your stuff with you. So once you're out, probably the first thing you're going to want to do is like go to the guard room where they've got your stuff and get your stuff back. But again, your gear is your iconic stuff that makes your look. It's like the painting of your. I think I said this before, but the painting of your character on the cover of the novel. That's the stuff like what would be depicted in that painting is like your character's iconic gear.
And should we do allegiances now or save that?
Allegiances is probably a good idea. Let me hop over to.
I put them all on a tab in the keeper.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Lowell, I take it you also have the Adventures Edition?
Yeah, I backed the Kickstarter.
And Mike, we have to pick one of these that's our opponent or our enemy. Is that what you said?
Yeah, you choose 2 as allies, choose either 2 as allies or 1 as an ally of rank 2 and pick 1 as an enemy of enemy rank 1.
Okay. So we get 2 ally ranks and 1 enemy rank.
Correct.
Okay.
Just looking across here. Okay, very good. I was just looking across all the characters. It looks like we've got at least, I think with one exception, I think at least one character has at least 1 rank in every investigative ability. So that's going to be very helpful. And you know, once we play a little bit, you know, once we play a little bit, if people want to like shift things around, that'll be fine. So once you've picked ranks, if you could type in the same number under points, that's kind of to indicate how many points you have left to spend in that particular rank or in that particular ability. Because those numbers we will be adjusting during play. Threshold.
So we just put. I'm sorry. We just put the number that, like, I have 3 intimidation, so I should put 3 under points.
Correct.
Okay.
That means you got 3 points. That means you got 3 intimidation points to spend. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So if you spend if you spend a point of intimidation, that's going to go down to 2, but your rank always remains at 3.
Got it.
Your rank never changes. Your rank will only go up with advancement, but your points will go down as you spend them. I'm going to make a quick note about wealth. Wealth more or less sets your lifestyle. Since we're starting out, everyone's going to basically going to be neutral on lifestyle. So having a wealth score and having to spend money to maintain your lifestyle, that is a nod to like the Conan the Barbarian stories, where, you know, at the end of one adventure, Conan has, you know, slain the giant serpent beast and is, you know, like riding off to the sunset with like chests and chests full of gold and jewels. And then at the start of the next story, he wakes up face down, drunk in an alley, penniless, because he blew all that money on stupid stuff. So when you acquire wealth at the end of one adventure, before the next adventure, you need to determine how much of that wealth you're going to spend to maintain your lifestyle. And the more points you spend, the more lavish your lifestyle has been. With a higher lifestyle, you get, you know, you'll basically have, it's basically another pool of investigative points that you can spend for, you know, oh, I've got a really good reputation, so I'm going to cash in on that. Whereas if you have a lower lifestyle below comfortable, you get a negative repute score, and again, that'll give the GM points that they can spend to make your life more complicated. We'll talk about wealth a little bit more if and when. So everyone should start at wealth 0 with lifestyle comfortable. And let's see here. Burning malefactors. I love it. Yeah, so drives should be fairly specific, but not so specific they never come up. But again, it's something that you can call upon if you're like in the course of adventure, in the course of the scene. If you are pursuing, if what you're doing is pursuing one of your drives, you can get a free +1 on one die roll in the scene. So while people are still figuring out their gear and drives, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the city of Eversink. So Eversink is a city-state. It is at the city exists on a on a cluster of islands in the river delta of the Great Serpentine River. Eversink has been here for a very long time. It is, you know, if you'd believe those scurrilous rumors, the ancient serpent people even had a settlement here, like in the long, long ago. Why is it called Eversink? Oh, question came up. Is there a map of Eversink I can post? And the answer to that is yes. I just need to find it. I'll get to that in a moment. So Eversink exists on a small archipelago of islands in a river delta. So the water around it is so the water around Eversink is kind of more brackish than salty, because the river's flowing out, but the sea is right there too. Why is it called Eversink? Well, because the city is perpetually sinking. There apparently is no bedrock under Eversink, and as buildings are built, they are constantly sinking slowly into the mire. And the city has been sinking for centuries, millennia, who can say? They're constantly like just building on top of the existing buildings, and as they sink, they just keep building up. What this means is underneath the city is this complex and nearly unmappable warren of abandoned, sunken buildings, lost cellars, there's like an entire undercity. And how deep it goes, well, there might be somebody that knows, but it's dangerous down there. Eversink is ruled by a group called the Trixidane. There are allegedly 13 anonymous rulers of Eversink that meet in secret to define the rules, to update the laws, to set general city policy. Nobody really knows who they are. There is a large bureaucracy of city employees that keep the wheels running, but nobody knows who the Trixidane are. They just know that they are. I guess y'all can check the various defined organizations, and sometimes other organizations may come up in play, and if that's the case, we will add them. Of most importance, the Church of Denari, very important. Goddess of Commerce. As I said, the It's not illegal to cast magic, but it is illegal to corrupt the city, because when you corrupt the city, you are corrupting. You are literally corrupting the goddess. The church frowns on that. There is a way to clean up corruption. When you do external corruption, one point of externalized corruption left to itself, it will dissipate in about a week or so. If you burn 2 points of corruption, it will dissipate on its own in a month or so. 3 points of corruption will dissipate in and of its own in a year or 3. 4 points of corruption will take decades to dissipate, and 5 points of corruption, you have permanently corrupted something. Denari, the other thing that the Church of Denari does is they clean up corruption when sorcerers have been mucking about. And part of what they try to do is figure out who did that. The Investigative Abilities Spirit site allows you to see corruption. And every sorcerer has a bit of a fingerprint. So once you've made corruption and you do corruption somewhere else, someone with Spirit Sight can probably tell that it was the same sorcerer that did both. Oh, let's see. Oh, yes, and the Mercanti are the they're the Mercanti are the they're not exactly a guild, but they're the nouveau riche of Eversink, as opposed to the ancient nobility, who are the ancient nobility, who may or may not have a given noble family may or may not still have money, but they've got their nobility. Let's see here. Once people have a stab at their gear and have
Gears
at least
just
some,
like make 'em ups.
yeah, just make it up.
Okay.
What do you think? What's the kind of
Oof.
stuff that you think your character is more or less always going to have with them? Totem of the Ice Bitch. I love that. Oh yeah, there's one other thing that's on the character sheet. I as a GM still don't really have my head around it too well, because it's a rule that was added after my group stopped playtesting, and I haven't quite figured it out. And that is your character's true name. This I think was pulled in from from Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea trilogy. If you know your true name, true names have power. Once per adventure, you can speak your true name and impose power on things, and it gives you some benefits. I need to look up the actual rules. Whether or not you know it, and not everyone necessarily knows your true name, but if you have a point of corruption or a point of spirit sight, or you have a good reason to know it, you can know your own true name. Again, if you speak your own true name, you're drawing attention to yourself supernaturally, and there's some extra powers that you can do. But if you know someone's true name, you have a certain degree of power over them. So speaking your own true name is risky. I'll need to look up the rules for that a little bit more. That was a piece of the game that I never actually played. if people are close enough to ready, again, we can fill some stuff in. You know, we can fill in a few details later if you'd like. Joe, it looks like you're still figuring out gear a little bit. I'll give you a few more minutes of that. Oh yeah, threshold. Threshold is basically your armor class, or I guess in the case of morale, it's your morale class. That's the target number that an enemy has to beat in order to affect you. Your threshold is, I need to look up what there's a cutoff here and I forget what it is. Give me just a sec.
It's 10 plus.
10 plus, thank you.
Thank you on the thing.
Yep. So if your your threshold is generally 3 unless you have 10 or more ranks in either health or morale, in which case it goes up to 4. If you have your gear, you may take 1 grit. If you are wearing some kind of armor, take 1 armor. And that's going to depend on like how you want to define your character. So, you know, like light armor, such like leather armor, or, you know, or hide armor, or something more exotic that makes sense to you, that's going to be 1 armor. Anything heavier, like metal armor, that's pretty much going to be 2 armor. If you really, really, really want to be clanking around in like a heavy cavalry mounted knights, like heavy armor, you can have 3 armor, but you're clanking around, and that's going to cause some other problems. Very few people are walking around in like full armor, unless you're going to a jousting match. So generally, armor 1 or armor 2 is going to be pretty appropriate. As for your weapons, if you want to have a big ass weapon, go ahead and say that it does +2 damage. Or if you want to have an otherwise remarkable weapon, like if you want to say that you've got an ancient enchanted weapon, yeah, you can say that it has up to a +2 damage modifier. If it makes sense for your character. If your character is not really much of a warrior, probably having a +2 damage weapon might not make a whole lot of sense. But it's, you know, it's all kind of, the idea for this is to be pretty freeform. You know, this game is a bit, you know, this game is has a bit more rules elements than I tend to like. But once we actually actually get into play, I hope it's going to make a lot more sense, and I just really like the way it plays. So if folks are ready, oh, I like that. I like everyone's art. Those are really cool. So it looks like we've more or less got a group of adventurers here. The next question I would ask is, how do you all know each other? Because once we actually start the adventure, y'all are going to be together, and I'm actually going to start the intro adventure kind of in media res. I'll actually give you the so the adventure is going to start. You will be on a ship coming back to Eversink from an unsuccessful expedition. You went out to do something. It didn't work out the way you wanted to. You didn't really, you didn't gain the prize. You didn't win the fight. You didn't do whatever you wanted to do. But you're safe, and you're heading back to town. Not necessarily with your tail between your legs, but you know, it wasn't a defeat, but it wasn't a success.
Probably somebody that would need it. I would be like a bodyguard or like a muscle, a thug.
Cool. So So if we want to, so if we are, let's try to think. I've done a lot of talking. I think, let's see. It is. I got 9:35. This game is scheduled to go till 11. I think I'm going to call it another 5-minute break. I've been talking a lot. My throat's getting a little dry. Hopefully, once we actually get into play, I will talk less. Let's take a 5-minute break.
We'll do character introductions when we get back.
We'll do character introductions when
Okay.
we get back.
Okay.
So give everyone some time to think about that. Joe, are you there? Maybe not. Joe, I've got a real quick question for you.
Yep.
You look vaguely familiar. Were you at PAX Unplugged last year?
Yes. I was working there at Jim Lake's Games.
Okay, got it.
So if you bought games from Jim Crocker, probably saw me.
I did indeed. Yeah, really bummed that Jim can't that Jim's getting out of the business. But
Well, I mean, considering the times.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't blame him. It's just
Yeah, it's
yet another thing that sucks.
2020 is the longest decade ever.
Well, I mean, I was talking with someone else that I'd met at PAX Unplugged over on a Discord server the other day. I was like, yeah, PAX Unplugged in December 2019. That was like what, 7-8 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
We are just waiting for Lowell to return.
Like, what are the limits on gear?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the question. Could you repeat that?
Like the gear stuff, like, because I'm looking at Lowell's thing and I like the idea of the private room that guards barracks. I'm like, oh, that's neat. Like, but like,
yeah, you can. You can have stuff like that.
So like, I have an idea for like a patron. I don't know how that works.
Patrons are more like allegiances.
Okay.
If you pick an allegiance, you can define an NPC that's affiliated with that allegiance that you know.
Okay.
I don't think that would necessarily count as gear, but other things that can count as gear would be things like it looks like Lowell just popped a few things in the chat window.
I dropped a couple of examples from the book there.
Fantastic. Yes. From the Outlander Barbarian. A long list of dead enemies, a short list of alive enemies. But yeah, you can have intangible things like I think one of the characters has has haughty attitude as on their gear list. One of the characters did have an elderly servant whose name you never can quite remember, but that was actually one of the other that was one of the other pre-gen characters. They had kind of a Jeeves and Wooster thing kind of going. If we are ready, why don't we do some character creation? Or I'm sorry, character introductions. Why don't we just go, just for the sake of ease, why don't we go right to left as our on the character keeper? So I guess that would put Lowell first.
So my character's name is Brizantimus, and he has been sort of on and off with the City Watch for many, many years. He is a sorcerer, but his sorcerer came from in sort of younger days when he first started with City Watch, accidentally swallowed an artifact, and essentially that's kind of in him, in his stomach, possessed him, and it's this dragon key, which is why he has the transport, fire, and serpent as his magical elements. And he's been around a long time. He still looks young because the key keeps him young, but he's been around, like acts like the 3 days from retirement character. And any sort of like really strong physical talent for fighting is kind of atrophied, and instead kind of focused on using magic to get things done. I imagine them as sort of constantly hungry, kind of having to feed the fuel in their stomach. So they probably look like young 20s, but they're much older.
Very cool. Joe, would you like to tell us about your character?
Sure. I'm playing Vivi the dancer. She's a con artist. Like she, just that is like she's very base, very young. She's like, yeah, I want luxury, I want wealth, and I want to get a position of security because I'm probably gonna piss people off along the way. So that's like she's gonna manipulate whoever she can, do whatever needs to be done to get these things, and she's very overconfident. Like she thinks she's good. She thinks she's way better than she actually is, and she's oblivious to many other dangers around her.
Okay,
I love
I'm the White Ruin. I call from the far icy north. I'm 7 feet tall, 300 and some pounds, albino with white hair, prominent demon totem, on my chest. And many years ago, I lay dying upon a glacier, and the ice bitch came and kissed me and infused me with demons, and they whisper to me to go forth and to release her brethren. And I travel the lands finding and releasing demons.
That's awesome.
Okay. I think I'm next up for going that direction on the character keeper.
Yep.
I'm Chris. I'm playing Elder Kaburi, Dantaro of the Shelter Isles. She is a older lady of indeterminate middle old age. Like she has the appearance of being somewhere between 60 and 80. Just it's tough to really pin things down. She's often smiling. She's usually smoking her pipe in most social situations, and she is very easy to talk to, very easy to trust, and has a wit that, if she unsheathes it, could scour mithril or adamant if necessary. Profession-wise, she would call herself simply a gossipy old lady, but she's actually a former spy master for the Shelter Isles, Federation, and she's come to this city to basically find out as much as she can about the Court of Tides and to ultimately destroy it.
And we will figure out what the Court of Tide is as time goes on. Fantastic. Dan, why don't you introduce us to your character?
Sure. This is Roz Cloud. She is most likely an orphan. Was raised kind of in a community center, non-sectarian community center, and is now essentially as a older teenager employed by that community center to help folks who come in who need help. Though she, by night, goes by the name Rooftop and is sort of thiefy, steely kind of person. She's also blind and uses her sense of smell to detect things around her. She's noticed that this lets her know when people are lying, and she can also sense corruption through her sense of smell.
Very cool.
One more
Okay.
thing for you, Mike. So my character too, like, it's no secret that he's corrupted. So like, feel free to fuck with me as much as you want. You know, like, mess me up however you want. You know, that's great.
I'm gonna throw that one right back at you. So, so you said you're like 7 feet tall and an albino. Are these both? I assume you weren't. Were you not born that way? And this is. Are these the effects of the magic?
Yeah, I mean, I was 7 feet tall because, you know, the people of the far north are giants, but the demon magic within me, you know, the cold within me is corrupted my body already. And, you know, I imagine my character emanating this cold radiance, so it's no big secret to anybody.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. So before we go on, I just want to make that. Before we start the adventure, I'm just doing a quick look to make sure we've got all our numbers. Okay, so Vivi, are you wearing any sort of armor?
I guess not. I mean, I didn't really imagine.
Okay, I mean that's absolutely fine. I just just gonna try to figure. I just want to figure out. Let's see. So your health is 9, so you're gonna have threshold 3, and armor is gonna be 0. Morale is also threshold 3, and you've got grit 1 for your gear. Let's see. Elder Kaburi. Let's see. You've got 8 health, so that's going to be a threshold of 3. Elder Kaburi, are you wearing any sort of armor in your gear or not?
No. She has a surprising number of knives secreted about her person, but she's not wearing armor.
Excellent. Your morale is 10, so your threshold is 4, and your grit is 1. So, a little bit about the dice. This is a trad game, in that as the GM, I will roll the dice from time to time. Basically, when the bad guys are fighting, I'm going to roll to hit your. I'm going to be rolling to try to hit your threshold numbers. A couple of things about combat, and one other thing. There's a link to a roll. There's a roll for your party link on the resources tab. If no one's hit that, I'm going to ask it if you do, because there's Swords of the Serpentine has a bit of a token economy, and I wanted to discuss that a little bit before we actually get into gameplay. So, as I mentioned, so with your general skills, you've got your number of ranks, and you always have those ranks, and those are also points that you can spend to affect the dice rolls, and you're going to be spending those during combat, and you're probably going to blow through them. So there's a way to refresh that, and that, your general skills refresh at the end of the scene, but sometimes fights can go a little way, can go along. So this game has a token mechanic called refresh points. When you're fighting bad guys or defeating traps or otherwise doing heroic stuff, the party as a whole will get refresh points, and you can choose to spend those refresh points as if they were points from whatever general ability you wanted to spend. You cannot use them for investigative points. These are for general skills only. But for example, if you've like already blown if you've already blown through all your warfare, and you want to affect your die roll, again, you can burn some of your you can burn some of the communal refresh points, and that's you know, when it's your turn, you can do that. We always start with 3 refresh points at the start of the game. For every mook that you defeat, the party gains a refresh point. For every lieutenant that you defeat, you get 3 refresh points back. And when you defeat a boss creature, you'll get 5 refresh points back. I am still getting used to using refresh points in on Roll for Your Party. So if anyone sees me neglect to add refresh points after you've defeated some bad guys, please call me on it. And color doesn't really matter, whatever color is set. I try to keep them uniform color, but sometimes that toggle gets shifted. Okay. So now I'm going to. So we've established who the characters are. I would like to say, for the sake of argument, that you all know each other and you all have been working together. You all are on a ship. You are returning to Eversink from an unsuccessful investigation, or I'm sorry, from an unsuccessful expedition. So I guess my question to you as a party is, what brought you together? Like, what is your common goal? I mean, do you have a common employer? Are you like mercenaries who got hired out? You know, are you some kind of a troop? Like basically, you know, what's your connection? What is your connection to each other? And you know, once we figure that out, then the second question is, you know, what was your mission that you had gone out on? Anyone in particular would like to start? Or, I mean, if you want to have this is a point where, you know, y'all can have a little discussion on how your party came together.
Could we be like the survivors from something horrible that happened at this this place that we, you know, our origination point?
I'd like to say, for the sake of argument, that for the most part, you folks have, because you have allegiances in Eversink.
That's true. Yeah.
You're all, if not from Eversink, you've all been in Eversink enough that, you know, you've got allegiances, and you know, Eversink is basically where you're from. So I can throw some. I'll need to.
I'll make a suggestion. I like the idea that you know, we've all, you know, maybe done stuff together, kind of friendly over time, maybe in pairs or threes, and that I heard that there was another one of these keys out there, and I said, got this information. There's other treasure there. You know, I know maybe we could all go and do this. I'm sure it's going to be great. And it was terrible. And my information was entirely wrong. And I'm still kind of sheepish about having dragged all of you out there with maybe exaggerated some of the things to get what I wanted. And now I'm a little rueful about that.
You said there were demons there, small one.
I was told. That's what I was told. Told there were demons, but no.
There better be demons.
Maybe somebody let them out before. Consider that a victory. Somebody else let them out.
You're gonna have to be more specific when you say small one.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Small ones.
Fair enough.
I didn't say there was gonna be demons there.
No, look, I'm sorry. I will make it up to you. I don't know how yet, but I'll make it up to you.
Excellent. We're
into
still
a deal.
friends.
Oh, good, good. That's good because I really do not want to be your enemy. Are we good, Kaburi? You're not going to stab me when I'm sleeping?
No, I would never do that while you were sleeping.
That turn of phrase I'm not digging too much. Raz, I got you out of town. You got to go and see the world, smell the world.
Riz, if we're going to do one of these harebrained schemes again, at least I'd like something to show for it to help the folks, the commoners back home. Right now, I'm going to show up empty-handed.
Look, I'll wait to do another harebrained scheme until one of you has come up with one. And at least we do one of those before we do another one of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a huge mistake. I mean, Cersei
Huge?
died. We didn't. Granted, we didn't get along, but she still died. Like, her blood is still in my pants.
You were supposed to have washed those.
Wow, I'm sorry. I was a bit busy running.
Mistakes were made.
Blood does not come out easy. This is silk.
That's why you have to wash them.
Blood doesn't come out easy.
Especially difficult if you don't wash.
Of all the ones here, I'm the cleanest.
She's got a point. So we'll get back. We'll find some. I'll keep my ears open for some way we can catch some coin that's easy to make up for this. And I will keep my ears open.
Your definition of easy isn't the same as the rest of us.
To be perfectly fair, Vivi, it's not that his definition of easy is different. It's that he doesn't understand when something sounds too easy to be actually easy.
I'm both hurt and hungry, so just keep that in mind.
Well, there's plenty of fish if you know how to catch.
Is that a metaphor?
I mean, we're on a boat, right?
Oh, that's true. We're on a boat.
Yes, you are aboard. You are aboard the Shining Coin, a 20-crew vessel which is heading back to Eversink.
Kaburi is actually enjoying this time on a ship after having spent so much time in the city. This is actually refreshing, and it kind of makes her feel a little homesick for the Shelter Isles and her time. Her time as a more well-traveled person. So she's standing on deck, enjoying the salt air and the spray and the smell of the sea, as opposed to the smell of sewage that we get in Eversink.
Cool. So yeah, you're standing on the deck and you're looking out, and you think you see something on the horizon. It might be a sail. And just as you're starting to think that, you hear a voice cry from the crow's nest, "Sail ho!" At that, the captain comes on deck and pulls out a spyglass and looks at it and says,
Yes. It's pirates, isn't it? It's pirates, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's always pirates.
Oh. He's like, "Oh, pirates."
The sea is big. You never want to encounter another boat, right? Like,
pirates. I'm like, I don't know. We should.
It's not always pirates. Sometimes it's privateers. Sometimes it's commission. It's actually commissioned naval vessels of a hostile power. But yes, you're correct. It's generally a bad idea.
Generally a bad idea to meet another ship at sea.
unless we're doing the pirating, you don't want to do it. Generally, you don't want to encounter another ship.
I am far, far too mature to engage in pirating at this stage.
Oh, come on. You still got your best years ahead of you.
Yes, and they're not pirate years. Those tend to be short and brutal and, end with impromptu gymnastics while hanging from a rope.
Only if you're bad at it.
Captain,
Everyone's bad at it eventually.
Captain, are they headed this way? Are we a target for them?
Well, I don't see any of the ships. I think they are, but
Okay.
they're clearly faster than we are. I'm just going to do they're clearly faster than So the captain calls for evasive maneuvers and raise sails, and they attempt to outrun it, but this pirate ship is faster. So I'm going to cut to. There's a pirate ship alongside the sailing coin. There have been volleys of arrows have been shot. The crew of the Shining Coin are not particularly adept warriors, and the captain is kind of looking at you as if to say, you people might know what to do here, right? There is so at this point the pirate ship is right there. It's coming into boarding. It's in boarding range. The pirates are dropping gangplanks across, throwing grappling hooks over. They're affixing their ship to yours, and they're going to start coming over. And one thing is that the black flag that the pirate ship has raised. It's not skull and crossbones. It's a black flag with a skull, and there's a coin in the skull's mouth, held between its jaws.
I really regret choosing the ship called the Shining Coin and not the Unwanted Cargo.
Let me check something here.
That one's on me. That one's on me.
Good. I like that blame getting shared around. Very good. Very big on that.
I mean, it's still your fault we're out here.
Fair enough.
Let's see. We're looking for. Anyone have scurrilous rumor? Yes.
Yes.
But I was going to say, somebody's got rumor.
I was going to say, does anyone have either scurrilous rumors or
Yes.
felonious intent? We've got a couple of people with scurrilous rumors. I'm just going to say, those of you who have scurrilous rumors, you recognize the black flag. That is the personal flag of notorious pirate Captain Precious Cointongue, she has been a scourge of Eversink's waterways for at least a decade.
Well, at least if we're sunk, it's going to be by a venerable pirate captain, and not just not just some fool on a lark.
Oh, and Raz, you have 2 points of scurrilous rumors, so I can give you one more bit of advice, one more bit of information that you know. A little bit about Precious Cointongue. 1, she's wanted dead or alive, and she is wanted dead or alive for a hefty reward in Eversink. And 2, she's got a reputation of being like very superstitious. In that anyone that gets killed in one of her actions, in order to appease the gods of the sea, she places a coin in their mouth and throws them overboard as an offering. Just a little bit about Captain Precious Cointongue. And at this point, the gangplanks are coming over and pirates are coming aboard. I'm going to ask how close. So, is everyone on deck when this happens?
Yep, I'm right there as they come across.
Okay. And
Just hide behind White Ruin.
I was going to say, and how close to the pirates? How close to the boarding party do each of you want to be?
I'm right there.
You're right there. Awesome.
I have enough distance so that I can throw knives, but I'm not getting up close unless I absolutely have to. The sword is ceremonial.
Okay.
I want to get to the rail so that I can project over at the other ship.
Okay.
And I'm trying to kick down
So
the
here's
gang.
how. Yeah, we're gonna get straight into combat. This is kind of, again, this is straight out of the intro adventure, and this particular encounter is here mainly to familiarize everyone with the combat system. Now I'm just taking a quick time check here. It is 10. I got 12 past 10. I'm thinking we're probably not going to complete this combat, but I'd like to maybe start it and get through the mooks. And I just need to bring up a. It's the wrong button. Hold on a sec. I just need to bring up a tracking sheet so I can keep track of some of this stuff. Gauntlet. Serpentine. Okay, so this is how initiative works. So at the start of combat, whoever it makes most sense to can go first. A question for the captain's name is Precious Coin Tongue. Let me type that in. So whoever makes most logical sense from fictional positioning goes first. Before you act.
Rowan. Wait, Rowan.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm thinking.
do you guys have you want to shoot your missiles as they're coming across, or should I just, wade in and start doing my thing?
You wade in, and then we'll follow up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the way it works is whoever it has fictional positioning to go first goes first. But before you act, you declare who is going to go after you.
Okay.
And that includes the bad guys. So right now the pirates are one group of bad guys. So generally the bad guys are like put in groups. So the pirates are going to be so they're going to be a group. So you can pick who's going to go next. If you pick all the players first, cool. That means that the bad guys go. And then there's a new round, and you do that until everyone is gone, and then there's a new round, and then whoever had gone last gets to pick who goes first in the next round. So sometimes you got to be a little strategic on this, in that if there's 3 groups of bad guys, if you think you can take them all out, then sure, all the players should go. But if all the players have gone and then all the bad guys go, well, group 1 bad guys go. GM says, okay, well, group 2 bad guys are going to go. Okay, well, then group 3 bad guys are going to go. Hey, new round, group 1 bad guys go. So they can. So I forgot the term for this initiative is, but you can be a little.
Popcorn.
You can be. That is popcorn. Okay. I knew there was a term for it. I just didn't know what it was called.
So I
let's
think
go.
I'll have Lowell Byzantimus go after me.
Chrysanthemus.
Could people change their names in the Zoom?
Shorty.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
So if I understand right, Mike, I declare what kind of attack I'm doing.
Correct.
So I think I'm going to do a health attack using warfare.
Okay.
And I have it at level 10. So does that mean I can hit multiple targets?
You can indeed, and the way that works is so when you roll, you need to hit their threshold. I'm just going to tell you these are mooks. When you're fighting pirates, Their threshold is 3. When you're so yeah, you have cleave. So
So do I like declare
yes,
how
you
many
have yes,
declare how many
you have,
points I'm applying, or is that how that works?
yeah. Before you roll the die, declare how many points of warfare you're going to spend.
Okay.
And hold on, I need to refresh my dice roller because it timed out on me.
And I'm tempted to say I'm going to apply all 10. Is that overkill? Is that stupid? Or
You can actually do that. That's actually a good way to take out a lot of mooks. I'm going to say that there's like 5 pirates that are coming that like went up over the gunnels, are like starting to run over, and then they realize, oh, we're running right out of 7-foot-tall albino giant.
Right. Yeah, and I fight like I have like this narwhal horn. It's probably like a short spear, and then I've got like this polar bear knife that I stab into their heads. So I
So
cut
for every
loose.
3, so their threshold is 3. For every 3 points that you exceed their threshold, you can take another one. And mooks have 1 health point, so they take a
Oh,
hit,
I
they go
see.
down.
So if there's 5 of them, if I get 8 or more on my die roll, then I kill all 5 of them. Do I understand that correct? Or do I have to get over each of their thresholds?
Over each of their thresholds. Oh yeah. So
So I'd have to do like
so if you
4
have 6,
points to kill one.
yeah. So well,
4
yeah. So
times
if you roll,
5 would kill all 5.
yeah. So the threshold is 3. So if you exceed, if you get a 6, you're going to take out 2. If you get a 9, you're going to take out 3, etc.
Oh, okay. All right. So I roll a d6 and I add the 10
And
points of warfare.
add the number of points that you are spending.
Okay. Let me. 1 second. Let me get the roll for your party up. I timed out
Okay.
on me.
Yeah, it did for me too.
All right, I got this white die down here. Roll selected. 2 plus 10 is 12. So I
12.
kill 4 of them, I guess.
You've taken out 4 of them. Why don't you tell us what that looks like?
Well, the first 2 I just grab and I bash their skulls together, and there's a spray of blood, and I throw them overboard. And to the swirling sharks. I don't know why they're there, but they are. And then I stab one with the narwhal horn in his guts, and I push him I use him as a shield towards the other one, and then I stab that one I slash his throat with my polar bear knife. And then the last one is, cowering probably.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah, you've taken out 4 of the pirates as they came over, and they realized that they are now regretting their life choices. So, Brisanthimus, you are up. Who is going to go after you?
Let's see. Where are Vivi and Raz in relationship to me? Where do you guys think you are?
Vivi's plan was to act terrified and then rush to the pirates for help and try to con them. That's what she does. Because I have a question on how allegiances work. So
I was going to kind of hunker down and try and push off some of the gangplanks.
Okay. Why don't you go after me, Raz? What I want to do, tell me what I have to spend to burn their sails to ash.
Oh, okay. So basically, you want to throw some fire at them.
Yes, I want to hit their sails and ignite those with magical fire.
Okay, that's definitely going to require a spend, because you can't. I mean, yeah, that's.
Yep.
Throwing fire around, you're going to need to spend some corruption on that.
Okay.
I'm going to say if you spend 1 point of corruption, yeah, you can create a conflagration that's going to catch their sails on fire. They're going to, as if a whole lot of people, like held torches to it.
Mhm.
If you want to spend 2 points of corruption, that's going to be like highly intense dragon fire engulfs them, burns them to ash almost immediately, and the rigging and their masts are also going to be in flames.
I owe my companions because I've dragged them out on here, so I need to go big or go home. We're still going home, but I am going to essentially and then I do breathe fire like a dragon. It will erupt out from my mouth.
Fantastic. So you're doing a 2-point spend, or
2
you're
point
just doing the one?
spend.
Okay. My next question is corruption. Are you going to force that internally into yourself, or are you going to externalize that into? I guess we're going to say, yeah. Usually that's going to infuse like where you're like the area that you're standing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that you're also throwing it at. I'm going to say you can choose to externalize it where you're standing, or you can like throw it at what you're like ensorceling.
I will definitely push the corruption over on that pirate ship, if that is possible.
It is. So you're okay. Yeah. So what does this look like? What do the viewers at home see?
I think it literally is that cough. I draw back and I do breathe just this stream of green dragon fire out that will just, and I turn my head and I spray it like that, and it all catches. And then when I'm done, I quickly grab and I put some salve on my lips when I'm done.
I love it. Okay.
Coffee.
All right. Excellent. So, yeah, the pirate ship is now very much on fire. You've burned away the sails. The masts are like they're like trees that are in flames. Like pieces of the rigging and the pieces of the rigging that were like heavily inflamed have landed on the deck. The deck's catching on fire. The pirates are scattering.
Get them, guys.
Cool.
I just looked at him like, you really shouldn't have done that. This is a bad idea.
Oh,
now there's a burning ship next to us.
oh, and corrupt. Oh yeah, the corruption. So yeah, so the green flames are like. Okay, I like this. So the green flames that you shot, there's still a lot of like these green flames, and they're like moving about the pirate ship, like almost as if of their own volition, as if they're like seeking out more and more things to burn. You probably don't want one of those to come onto your ship. Anyway, that's more special effect than anything else. Who's going next? I'm sorry.
Raz.
I kind of want to use this knowledge that I have of her superstition.
Before you act, who's going to go after you?
Oh, sure. I'm going to say I was thinking Elder Kaburi. Did I say your name right? So you want to throw some knives, and Vivi, I sensed you wanted to kind of hang back.
I mean, we should let the pirates go before all of us go.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, when we say pirates go.
Pirates go. Okay. So at this burst of dragon fire, let's just say that they were absolutely not expecting that. The pirates that were about to come aboard your ship, several of them turn and go you hear a booming voice shout from the pirate ship, like, "Avast, you scurvy sea dogs! Put out the fire! Put out the fire now!" That prize isn't worth it. So several of the pirates that were about to jump onto your ship now realize that, we need to put out this fire. So several of them they're basically they're breaking off the attack and are heading back to their ship. They've got some kind of fire control protocol while they're basically they're like hoisting up buckets of seawater from overboard and they're like, dousing it on the flames. A couple of the pirates, one of the pirates attempts to stamp out one of these green flames that's wandering around, but it runs up his leg and he starts screaming. So the pirates are kind of a mess. Looks like their first mate is a really burly guy that's got this that's leaning on a mattock and is ordering his crew around. And at that point, he looks right at Chrysanthemum, and just shoots you this look of utter hatred and contempt.
Raz, you might want to kill that one or something.
At that point, a tall and very very well dressed, regal looking woman in very.
Mike, I'm going to stop you for a second.
Yeah.
Are you doing the pirates action now?
I'm doing the pirates action.
No, Raz goes, and then Raz had Raz choose the pirates action afterwards.
God. Yes. You are correct. I am sorry.
I thought you were setting me up.
No.
So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself, and I apologize. Yeah, Raz, what are you doing? I'm really sorry about that.
No worries. It sounds like Coin Tongue has not made an appearance.
She is not yet. She is. Yeah, I was about to do that, but no, she is not on deck yet.
Because I'm wondering if I can use that knowledge, my knowledge of her superstition, to kind of draw her out.
Okay.
I was thinking to kind of shout, like, you've got people dying and they don't have coins in their mouths, so the sea gods are going to come and get you.
I love it. Sure. Yeah, she's not there yet. So your intent is to basically draw her out and draw her attention?
Yeah, I think so. And kind of, maybe sort of get them to retreat or rethink their strategy. So.
Okay, I like that. Let's see. I think of all things, that is going to be you don't see her per se, but you know she's there. She's the captain. She's aware of what's going on. I think that's going to be a sway attack against her morale.
Great. I did not invest in sway.
Well, that's okay, because if you're looking at roll for your party, you can spend those tokens that are on the because what's his name? White Ruin killed four of those pirates, so we got 4 refresh points.
But Raz, you did invest in sway according to your character sheet.
Yeah, you've got 2 points of sway, which is cool.
I'm not a lot in sway.
Oh yeah. I'm like, you can do it. That's the.
Oh, you can do it.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. So, do I spend any of those points? I do have to commit some points.
Yeah, you need to commit before you. You do need to commit before you roll. And again, if you're going for the captain, I'm going to tell you that her threshold is going to be 4, and she's going to have a lot more than 1 hit point. A lot more than 1 morale point. Excuse me. For every 5 points that you exceed her threshold, you get a critical hit. That'll do an extra die. when you're doing sway damage, it's going to do d6 plus 1 morale damage. Is base.
Okay. Let me see if I hit first, and then we
Yep,
can have that.
absolutely. So how many? So before you roll, how many points do you want to spend?
I'll spend all my sway too.
Okay, and do you want to spend any of those refresh points?
I do. Does this just give me a +1 to the roll? Each one?
Yep, each one is +1.
All
And
right,
when you
I'm gonna
use
spend,
3, okay,
yeah, let's do 3.
okay.
Is that all right?
You're going to use them. I'm just so those 3, and I'm just gonna take them off.
All right, I'm gonna roll my die. So I'm adding 5 to this.
Adding 5 to the die.
And I rolled a 6 plus 5 is 11.
Nice. Okay. Adding, yes. Okay, yeah. So you're going to do an extra die.
So now I roll 2d6 for damage. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's going to be 2d6 plus 1 for damage. Because a sway attack always does d6 plus 1.
It's like so many.
So 2d6.
I'm gonna add some new dice to the pool here. I rolled an 8.
Nice. Oh yeah, that's one other thing I forgot to mention. When you spend on an attack, the minimum damage that die roll is the number of points that you spent. So for example, if you spend 4 points on your attack roll, you still roll the die, but if you get less than a 4, it counts as a 4. When you're rolling multiple dice, that only affects the main die, so it's best to use that. It's best to roll your main die as a different color of the others, so you know which one gets the minimum. But I didn't notice, so
I rolled a 3 and a 5, and then my +1 is, I guess, 9 points of.
yeah. So that's gonna be 9. That's gonna be 9 points of morale. Let me double check her morale.
And she's a teenager, so she has that tone of voice that really gets underneath grown-up skin too.
I
She's
love it.
just kind of annoying, but also not caring just enough. So it's like really annoys her.
Sounds like you've heard that quite a bit.
Once or twice today. Yes.
And my tracking sheet just froze, so I'm resorting to pencil and paper. There we go. Okay. And you said you wanted the pirates to go next.
Yeah. So does she still have morale? Like,
Oh, she still has morale.
Okay.
So a little more about game mechanics. If you've got 0 or more, you're fine. This is true of health or morale. If you've got 0 or more, you're fine. If you've got between -1 and -5, you're at the first level of disability. On morale, that is called, and I'm blanking what that's called.
Unstable.
Unstable. When you're unstable, or the equivalent for when you're between -1 and -5 on health is you're hurt. And when you're at that state, you need to make a DC, not DC. Yeah, I'm not playing Dungeons and Dragons. You need to make a health check. Basically, you need to beat threshold 4 to stay in the fight. You'll either and as long as you're in the fight, you can continue going, but you're at -1 on all your rolls. When you get below -5 but above -10, you need to make another threshold check, and if you're in, you're going to be at -2. Okay. Okay. So she's still in the fight. So at this point, Pressure Coin Tongue walks onto the deck, and looks across. I mean, these ships are still basically lashed together, so she's like, she's just maybe 20 yards ahead, and she draws a rapier and points it at you and says, "Which one of you was the sorcerer?"
We're going to White Ruin.
Surrender,
Yo.
fool.
You'll taste my wrath for that. Let's see. And she basically lets loose this string of vile curses at Brezantimus. This is a sway attack. She is going to spend 3 of her points. Oh, and I forgot to declare who was going to go next. Who is going to go next is her first mate. So she's gonna spend 3 of her malice points. She rolled a 5, so that is an 8 versus Brezantimus's morale threshold of 3. That actually beats it by 5, so she has gotten a critical hit on you. Let me add another die to the table. Okay, so the green is going to be the main die, so that's going to have a minimum. That's going to have a minimum of 3. I rolled a 5, and I rolled, and I got a 6. 6 and 2, 8. So that's going to be 9 morale damage. You can apply your grit. So that'll be 8 morale. That'll be 8 morale points on Brezantimus.
I'm at -1.
Okay, you're at -1. You need to make a morale check.
Okay.
The threshold is 4.
All right.
You can just straight up roll the die. You can't spend refresh points. You can actually spend morale points on this. It'll lower your morale, but it would keep you in the game. But you need to roll a 4 or higher, which is a 50-50 shot.
Well, let's spend 1 morale point. Take that to a -2, and I will roll. I will add
Add
my die. And let me roll 1. Yellow. Submit. There's a 5.
You're still in the game.
Mind you, I'll still be running next round, but there we go.
I am going to say that she ordered her first mate over up on the gunwale. So and she's ordering the pirates. The pirate crew is pretty much just they are focused on trying to put out this fire. So the first mate, Kortos. Yes, his adjectives in the book are stupid, cruel, intimidating. Yeah, he runs toward the gunnels. He jumps up. He runs across, and he seems to run straight into the wall of White Ruin.
Come at me, weakling.
Yeah, he's going to take a swing at you with his Matic. Not a typical piratical weapon, but you're looking pretty intimidating. So he's going to spend 4 points. Rolling the green die. I rolled a 1 plus 4 is a 5, but I think that still beats. I think that still beats your threshold.
My threshold's 4, but I do have 1 armor, so does that reduce
Yeah.
it to 0?
This will reduce damage.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to roll damage here, which was 4, and plus 1. So he has done 5 health to you. Your arm that is reduced by your health. I'm sorry, reduced by your armor.
Okay, got it.
So so that'll be 4 health.
Yep. Down to 8.
Who hasn't yet gone?
Yep.
Yeah, and I
Elder.
forgot. And I forgot.
Viv-
And I forgot to declare at start. And I
It's
and I
actually
apologize.
easier to declare at the end,
Okay.
because then like people don't get confused.
Yeah, I think you're right. The rules say you're supposed to declare before you act, but you're right. It is easier to declare at the end. Yeah, I'm going to say Elder Kaburi. Why don't you? I think you're up.
Okay. I think what Kaburi wants to do is, as the other pirates are trying to put out that fire, and the captain is brandishing her sword. I'm going to basically pepper a bunch of knives at her and I'm not going to actually try to physically harm her, but I'm trying to tatter her up a little bit, kind of humiliate her and make her look, make it look like she's basically being, having her fancy dress, her fancy hat, and her fancy, blouse, basically being shredded in front of all of her crewmates and her crewmen, and basically hopefully lessening her effectiveness at commanding them. So going for a sway attack, I think.
That is absolutely a sway attack, and this is one of those great examples of using a weapon to do morale damage. So yeah, this is totally a sway attack. How much sway are you going to spend? Her threshold is 4.
I'm gonna throw all 8 at it.
Nice.
I want this to work. So
okay,
I've got 8 sway points. I'm going to spend all 8 of them.
excellent.
So I'll roll the yellow die.
Okay.
That'll be my roll on the roll for your party.
There we go.
And it's a 5 plus 8 would be a 13.
Nice. Okay. 4 and 5 is 9. I'm sorry. What was that total?
I rolled a 5 and I spent 8 sway points, so that'd be a total of 13, right?
Okay. So yeah, that's you have beaten her threshold by 5, so you're going to get an extra damage die. That's just one other thing. Now that you've hit, that's one other thing that you can do. You can spend appropriate investigative points to get extra dice of damage. You can only spend from one skill, but if you have multiple points in that one skill, you can spend multiple points from that skill. And as long as it
could I throw a few? Could I throw a choice insult at her as I'm shredding her fancy attire?
Absolutely.
And spend a taunt point.
Going to spend a taunt point. Absolutely. So, so yeah, that's going to be 3d6 plus 1, and that first, and don't even bother rolling that first die because you spent more than 6 points. So the minimum number of points that die can roll is 6. So I guess roll 2d6 plus 7.
Well, I spent 8 points, right?
Yep, but yes, you did. The minimum number that the die rolls is the number of points you spent up to a maximum of 6.
Ah, okay. Okay, so that first one is going to be 6, and then I'll roll these other 2 dice and add 1.
Yes.
Okay, I'm re-rolling the green and the blue.
Okay. So those 2 plus 7.
So that's 5 plus 7 will be 12.
12. Okay. Where's that? Okay. She needs to make a morale check. And that is a failure. You know, you know, at that she shouts to her, you know, at that she shouts, you know, cut the hooks, cut the lines, we're getting out of here. At that, half of the pirates that were scrambling to put out the fire are now scrambling to like cut the lines to separate the two ships. You know, she shouts to her first mate, "Now get back over here. We're getting out of here. We're not fighting these sorcerers." No, she shouts more curses in your direction. I think Vivi is the last person who hasn't gone yet.
That would be who I would choose.
Well, everything. Good job, everyone. As I peek out around the corner, I'm like, oh, everything's good. As like, I've got some manacles that I put on myself to look like I was a prisoner. I'm like, I guess I could take these off. Oh.
Is there anything you're doing, or are you just going to wait for the...
Is there anything to do? They're leaving, right?
Well, it looks like the pirates are leaving. I mean, it also looks like they're in pretty rough shape. I mean, if you want to... I mean, it's possible if you want to, like, turn the tides and try to, like, take over, you know, like, attack the pirates on their ship.
Their ship's on fire with, like, a moving green fire? That seems dangerous.
She's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
She
Not that I care, but...
Yeah, like, also, like, I've got
does have big
allegiances to pirates, so I'm like, I'm not really going to betray them, I don't think, right? Outsiders are pirates. Pirates are outsiders' allegiance, right?
She's rich.
I don't think she's that rich.
You know, I think the real question we're all asking is like, why does Vivi always have manacles?
You know, why don't you?
Sometimes it's best not to ask that question.
Yeah. Hey, go out drinking with me and you'll find out.
I have been, and I still don't know.
No.
Or
Yeah,
is
kind
that
of
too
right.
much?
Maybe you haven't gone to the right places.
I mean, their ship has got like green fire on it. They're not going too far, I don't think, right?
Yeah, it's scary. I guess I'm looking at the captain. Are we going to get out of here? Like, we should go, right?
Yeah,
Well,
the pirate ship literally doesn't have any sails right now. If I'm remembering the description, so like they're going to have to if I hope they have spare sails, otherwise they're adrift.
Still a bunch of pirates there we would have to cut through and put us all at risk. So I get where Vivi is coming from. So, you know, I'm peeking up from like behind a box. So I'm more than fine if we run.
Yeah. Byzantine? You're pretty messed up right now, aren't you? Are you okay? Do you need some help?
I'm really scared.
Well, so you're equal on that at least.
So I'll yell across the water. I'll say, you know, send us what's her name again? Coin Tongue. Send us Coin Tongue, and we'll take you back to port. Otherwise, you're gonna, you know, die here.
Okay. So you're demanding the pirates hand over their captain.
Right.
I don't think that's going to work, White Ruin.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm working from a position like their ship. I imagine the conflagration that they're you know, they're going to burn down to the water line, you know, pretty soon, right?
Well, I mean, they're probably making progress toward putting out this magical fire. It's I think it's probably safe to say it's probably safe to say that they're eventually going to do it, but their ship is going to be seriously messed up.
How about if I burn a point of intimidation, would that make it happen?
I was just going to say, if you want to burn a point of intimidation, I think the pirates are freaked out enough that, yeah, they're probably gonna turn her over. Oh, even better. If you focus it on, we're starting to run out of time. I like what you did. If you focus that on their first mate, I think it could probably convince him, and he's strong enough to like pick her up and throw her open. He's probably strong enough to like pick her up and throw her across.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'll grab her by the scruff and say, here she is. Let's take her and, get what we can from her or for her.
I love it. This looks like a good. We're almost at time. This looks like a good place to break. At this point, between the pirates and the and your crew, they've like knocked off the gangplanks. They've cut the lines. Since your ship has sails and they don't, you're able to break away very quickly. And you have Captain Precious Cointongue as your prisoner.
Hey, we have a use for those manacles that doesn't involve any sort of skullduggery at all.
There we go.
Well, okay. They're not.
So
they're not actually that useful for that. How have you lived this long and not understand these things?
So I think we're going to break it here.
Okay.
This was the I enjoyed it. I think we had a bit of slow going, and I think I was tripping over my tongue a few times trying to explain some of the rules. But once we got into it, I think it started to make sense.
It's a lot.
I got
she was to take in.
It's a trad game, so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we're on board.
Got it. I got to say, everyone, I love your characters. I think they're all just awesome, and I'm really looking forward to the next session where we can really sink our teeth into this.
Do have a hypothetical. I don't know if it'll ever come up again, but if I had wanted to use my like allegiance points with them, how would that work?
You're with Outlanders, right?
Yeah. And they're described as.
So you could conceive. So here's how that could have worked. You could have spent this probably would have required a spend, but you could have spent a point of Outlanders to declare that, oh, Precious Cointongue? Wait, we go way back. I knew her when like she was an old friend from high school. No, wait. But yeah, we go way back, and we had when we were both younger, we had a whole bunch of these adventures. So like we're really old friends. I'd ask you to like.
Okay, it's like one of the declare a fact about the fiction. About the fiction. So I was thinking, like, maybe I'd use it to parlay. Oh, we're destroying them. I don't need to parlay with them.
Yeah, you could use it. Yeah, you could spend an investigation spend would have been to declare that you and Cointongue were old friends or old allies or old rivals, or that you have some kind of leverage over her, or you could definitely do something to take narrative control and just state a new fact. And
okay.
But so I got to say,
something
I have run this
non-combative.
Exactly.
Okay.
I got to say, I have run this scenario like 5 times over the past couple of years, and this is the first time I've ever seen anyone like burn their sails down. So that was awesome.
It's got fire magic. I mean,
and I screwed up already. So,
Mike, do I understand that it's the end of a scene, I imagine, right? So we get our general abilities back.
Everyone's going to get your general abilities back, but not your investigative. Yeah, that's
okay.
Even though we're going to go into another session, it's still the same adventure.
Okay, And how about health and morale? Does that change, or does that heal over time, or
that heals over time. I'm just going to say you're still like a week out of Eversync, so by the time you get back to the city, everyone's going to have all of their general and all of their health and morale back.
Okay.
But your investigative spend will stay spent.
Okay.
At least till we get to the end of this adventure. Cool. I think the star I want to give to everyone is I love your characters. I think they are. I think they're all just. I think they're all totally awesome. I'm really looking forward to playing with y'all again. My wish I'm going to throw against myself, and that is I wished I'd done a better job explaining the rules and hadn't tripped over my tongue so much.
I think you did real good. I think you didn't need to say as much as you did. Probably. I think it's not that complicated. I mean, I've never played it before, so speaking as a total rookie, I think I pretty much got it pretty quickly. And I think we would have gotten the rest through play pretty quickly. This little scenario right here is a good way to just kind of like get the dice on the table and see how things work, So I think you did great. I think you probably just didn't need to say as much as you did.
Thank you. Any other? Anyone has any more feedback? You all have my email, and if you want to throw something my way, if anyone doesn't, if everyone is ready, I guess we'll call the session. Well, thanks everyone.
Right, thank you.
I really enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to next week.
All right. See
y'all
everybody next time.
Muted, Bo.
Mike, are you planning on posting this?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Sure.
I would like to post this if that is okay with everyone. If you can
Yep.
give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you, folks, and thanks for the prompt, Lowell. I'm still kind of new at this.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
folks.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.